Texas gears up to take on the Big 12 tourney. The sheriff hangs up his badge, and we break out the boxing gloves next on College Crossfire. I guess we'll get into it, guys. Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
Roll up the sleeves for this one.
This Dallas team was very overrated from the start, like they always are every year.
The talent there, Kevin Mack, Eric Davis, and Cohen Roach are maybe three of the most talented guys in the team.
Oh, that's an ugly shirt.
Always a pleasure having you on, guys.
Time to freak out, Reese.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the only live sports show from the 40 Acres. This is College Crossfire. I'm your host, Reese Miller. Great show planned for you tonight. Let's introduce our panel of experts as we go down the line. Mark, I assume you're doing very well, so I won't even ask. And we'll move on to Cody. Cody, first time on the show. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Reese. I'm glad to be here. Ready to get started.
Excellent. Zach Head makes his return, and we're certainly pumped up about that.
Yeah, I feel like Derrick Rose.
Feeling good? Well, hopefully your knees are a bit healthier.
Oh, they're great.
Excellent, guys. Let's go ahead and get into it. The Longhorns basketball squad ignites their Big 12 tournament journey tomorrow morning at 11:30 in Kansas City against the Baylor Bears in the 4 versus 5 seed matchup. Texas won Game 1 on the road in Waco, but got waxed in February at Club Irwin, guys. Your task is to complete the following phrase for everybody watching. Texas wins tomorrow if what? Mark, we'll start with you.
Texas wins tomorrow if Prince Ebay has a great game. I mean, it's a big team, this Baylor team, Rico Gathers. They have tons of big guys in the paint. And last time Texas played Baylor, Prince Ebay got in foul trouble, and that was killer because that means Shaq Claire's in. But when Prince Ebay's in, he needs to play like the defensive player of the year that he is. And if he does that, that could be really good for the Texas team because that's where Texas gets killed, on the rebounds against Baylor and in the paint. So if Texas is able to control the paint, and it starts with Ebay, I know Ridley's back, but if Ebay plays a good game, I think Texas has a good shot at winning. That game at Club Irwin, Baylor shot close to 70%, and it was mostly layups inside, as you mentioned. Cody, Cade, what say you?
Well, Reese, I think it's all going to come down to aggression, and really that's the bread and butter of any sort of UT men's basketball team this year, but also Shaka Smart overall. When you look at whenever he took VCU throughout the college tournament, he showed that he wanted a very aggressive team. And we see that whenever Texas has been winning this year, especially against top teams, it's because they were so aggressive. In fact, after their loss with Baylor, both Shaka Smart and Isaiah Taylor said we just weren't aggressive enough. We were just passing the ball around, and we were just waiting for something to happen. So I think they should be a lot more aggressive, especially with that 1-3-1 that Baylor is so good at, something that's very rare in college basketball. But I think the aggression, both on offense and defense, will help them a lot, especially if you get Felix and also the Red Rocket and Lambert going with the 3-ball. So.
Yeah, certainly. Texas was aggressive in that run to end Oklahoma. I haven't really seen it as much in really the 4 games since. Zach, what do you think?
If Texas shows up, they have a great opportunity to beat Baylor. You look at this team, they've been competitive with OU. They've been competitive with Iowa State. Really, that Kansas game was a really just bad showing. The hallmark, as everyone has mentioned, is the intensity, is the aggression. And I think the biggest issue for Texas will be stopping Taurean Prince. Texas doesn't have a true 3. Closest thing is probably Tevin Mack, who is kind of still hasn't really proven himself as a freshman. And Taurean Prince is 6'8", big. He's a future NBA player. I believe he scored 18 points in the last game. And if you can, what Texas has to do is throw just their plethora of guards at him, and that's what they're going to try and do. That requires them to trap, be aggressive, try and get steals. And if they can do that and kind of shut him down to an extent, that also translates into offense because the aggression on defense will get them going on offense. And we've seen whenever Texas does that, they play even better.
Yeah, it seemed like in that second matchup, it was, do we put Connor Lambert, do we put Kendall Yancey on Prince? And couldn't really find a solution. So you're getting the point here. I think that's the key to tomorrow is stopping Taurean Prince, a future NBA player. So Zach's going to lead us off a point, guys. Just when you thought it didn't get more painful than Nick Rose's extra point miss wide, the Texas baseball team did its best, blowing a 7-run lead in the 8th inning and a 7-2-run lead in the 9th on Sunday against California to ultimately get swept in the 4-game series for the first time in the team's illustrious history. The Longhorns bounced back last night, drilling Sam Houston State 12-3. But guys, what does this team that sits right now at 6-7 have to change going into a weekend series with a UCLA Bruins team that is really good, preseason ranked top 10? Cody, we'll start with you.
Well, Reese, I think it's going to come down to the consistency of the pitching squad as far as the UT team goes. Specifically, if you look at the fact that UT has a great offense and a great defense, they're just struggling with pitching right now. And you could probably say that that's, for the most part, because there's such a young pitching core. Of course, you had the 7-0 blown lead in the second game of the series, and that was definitely to the fault of our closer. And then also, just the rest of the series never really got off to a very firm, good start as far as the pitching went. So I think that's what we need to start working on. We need to get the younger pitching staff to calm down a little bit and to understand that obviously they're pitching in the college level right now, but for the most part, they just need to play their game.
I think you saw that with the freshman closer, Shugart, giving up 5 runs in the 9th inning the other day. Really tough one, just kind of warding that one. Zach, what do you think here?
You know, baseball is a long season. I wouldn't be that worried about dropping a few games in a row. Yeah, it's never looks good to be swept, especially by a team like California, who's a rival. But with that said, UT, for the most part, the pitching over the course of the season hasn't been terrible, 3.26 ERA. They've struck out almost twice the amount of batters they've walked. Over the long run, I think it'll even out, and this is a good team. And on top of that, it's really just has to be on the lineup, just show up consistently. We saw it a few weeks ago against Stanford when they came out and won 9-0, then came back the next day and lost 11-1. It's just building on those games like the 9-0 game and just putting forth that effort and that output consistently.
Yeah, Patrick Mathis has been injured, one of their maybe best hitters, Tyler Rand as well. So they're a little beat up in that lineup. Mark, what do you think here?
Ooh. I think they need to do the simple things better, the little things. I was at the game on Friday when they lost 4-3, and all of those runs could have been easily prevented. One of them, there was a hit to left field, and the left fielder misplayed the ball. It got caught in the lights, and he could have easily caught it, and it resulted in a run. There was another pass ball by a pitcher. Just easy, preventable things. Brett Boswell threw an error to first base, and that resulted in another run. So if they just do little things, don't make errors that lead to runs, because Texas outplayed Cal in that game. They should have won. They played very well against one of the best pitchers in the country, and Dalton Jeffries. They just didn't do the little things like fielding ground balls the right way, just doing a little extra effort. If they do those little things, those small things that you're taught from Little League, they have a good shot at getting right back on track.
I think it's a great point because you look at the game on Sunday, if Casey Clemens is able to scoop that ball out of the dirt, they hold on and win 7-6. A couple of other errors in that game. Joe Baker's had some base running, just brain farts. So I think it's a little bit of that and a little bit of the lineup as well. So Mark's going to get the point here. Headed to question 3, guys. From now until April 16th, we get a quench in our slight thirst for football as spring practice is officially underway. With that comes the annual conversation we seem to be having around these 40 acres lately. Who will be under center on September 3rd? 5 guys have somewhat of a shot, but who is your guy that will emerge and ultimately start against Notre Dame? Doesn't have to necessarily pull himself away from the spring, but against Notre Dame, who's a starter? Zach?
With Gilbert coming in, he said it's a clean slate. Everyone has an equal shot, but there's no reason to really overthink this. We saw flashes from Gerard Hurd last season. He came in, he had a few big games. He showed that he's a dual-threat quarterback. He made some impressive throws. I think everyone wants to get enamored with Swoops because of his size and his arm strength, but we've seen 2 seasons so far that Swoops has kind of struggled. I would like to see Hurd continue to get shots, and I think he's potentially the future of Texas football.
Okay, so you're on the Gerard Hurd train. No
Absolutely.
Freshman, no Kyle Locksley. Okay,
you don't want a third quarterback in 3 years.
okay. Gerard Hurd gets a second shot. Mark, what do you think?
I wanted Shane Buechele, but I was at the practice on Monday, and I saw him throw, and he was short on every single pass. So it's not going to be Shane Buechele. He's too young, but as of right now, and I would have liked it to be Hurd just because Hurd, he showed potential, but that was against Cal, the worst defense in college football. And then he couldn't complete a pass against Iowa State. So I don't think Hurd's the quarterback. I don't think he can throw down the field at all. I think he's just a QB read kind of quarterback, just QB drawing all over the field. But I think it's Swoops. I don't think Swoops is that good. I don't think he's that far ahead of anyone else. But I definitely think Swoops has the best arm on the team. And with this new system and this quick read offense, that suits Swoops the best. So I think Swoops is the guy right now. He's the senior. He's kind of a leader. He's been there before, been there, done that. I just don't see Hurd getting it because I just don't think he's that great.
Yeah, I think Texas fans, much to the dismay of them, he may be the favorite in the clubhouse right now as much as they want to hear that watching at home. Cody, what do you think? Who's your guy?
I'm actually going to have to agree with both of them. I think currently in the system, if it isn't broke, then why would you fix it? You see Hurd, and although, yes, he did struggle a little bit whenever playing in certain games, but he also had an arm to where he could get the ball down the field. So I would definitely think to stick with Hurd. And as hard as it is to say this, I think you stick with the 2-quarterback system, mostly because I think Hurd did very well with the competition that he had, knowing that that the 18-wheeler was right behind him, ready to take his spot. So that was something that always made sure that he was always on his A game. But also then in the red zone, I mean, again, the 18-wheeler package is something that's unstoppable. So I think, honestly, although it's very, very rare to say this, I think the 2-quarterback system actually worked pretty well for UT. And I think now that we used it last year and kind of have a more understanding of it, then it's going to be a little bit easier to run it in the future. So I think it's going to go a little bit smoother.
I do think the 18-wheeler package is a great role for Swoops, and he's found that position for himself. I disagree with you when you say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because in my opinion, it is absolutely, completely broken, and I think Swoops is the starter. I think he fits Baylor's offense best. So Mark is getting the point here as we're going to break, guys. That'll do it for round 1 here on Crossfire. Up next is Peyton the Goat or just some sheep, and we get the madness rolling. Stick with us. College Crossfire. Let's take a look at our current scoreboard. Mark Skol, Junior, the 8th, has 2 points. You've got the deuces.
The deuces this time?
The deuces. We got the goose egg in the middle, but plenty of time for Cody, Cade, the newcomer, and just number 1 over there for Zach Cade, guys. But as we get going into round 2, much to the dismay of every football fan, unless you're like former TST member Katarina Biancardi and root for the New England Patriots, Peyton Manning has officially retired. The Sheriff finished with the most wins, passing yards, and passing touchdowns in NFL history. But where does he rank among the all-time greats? Mark, a huge Peyton Manning fan in your own right, is he the greatest of all time?
See, I like the discussion of the greatest of all time. It's a good debate, but we'll never know really who's the greatest of all time. And I think we just should appreciate his greatness, because Peyton Manning was definitely, like you said, one of the greatest of all time. I don't know if it's just so hard to compare greatest of all time, because it's like saying, who do you like is your favorite composer, Beethoven or Mozart? They're both great, you know? It's like, who's your favorite painter, Michelangelo or Van Gogh? I mean, it's like, there's no wrong answer at all.
Right.
But like for me, and I know when I'm watching, I personally love Peyton Manning.
Right.
I think he's a great quarterback. He's definitely my favorite quarterback that I've watched in my lifetime, and from my personal perspective. But when I don't know, like people throw in the Tom Brady argument, and he won 3 Super Bowls in his first 4 years, and in each of those 4 years, he didn't throw more than 28 touchdowns in a year. So I mean, it was a lot of the team around him, not necessarily. So the Super Bowl equation, I don't know, people give that to Tom Brady, but I feel like you can't really compare that in a sense, because he just didn't play as well. It was just more the team was better.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, and I really like you're kind of adding some culture to the show, which I appreciate. But we're going to move on to Cody. What do you think?
Well, in order to get back into this race, I'm going to take a little bit of a risk, and I'm actually going to put Manning 4th. And the reason I do that is because of 3 other quarterbacks. Third's going to be Terry Bradshaw, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Bradshaw was someone that was the first quarterback to win 3 Super Bowls. So he definitely set the pace for what it looks like to be a quarterback that wins Super Bowls consistently. And also, he was someone that basically, for the most part, emphasized how great a large amount of passing game is for the NFL. So he kind of set the tone there. That, and for everything that he did for Pittsburgh, I think he ranks a little bit over Manning just because of the Super Bowls. Second, definitely Joe Montana. And really, Joe Montana is someone that you can't really describe just how great he was. However, I would say that his best game was Super Bowl 23, 3 minutes left, down by 4. It took him 92 yards. And ended up winning the Super Bowl. Sweeter than my mom's sweet tea. And then, of course, Tom Brady. Tom Brady, 4 Super Bowls, and wins with everyone. Doesn't matter who he plays with.
We need to get some of that sweet tea on the show. Maybe we get an official
if
drink.
It gets me extra points.
Official drink of Crossfire. Yeah. Well, okay, you're doing a good job right there, because I really like the Terry Bradshaw, someone no one talks about. Zach, what do you think?
Well, after Mark's cop-out answer, I'm not giving an answer.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I put Peyton Manning probably a 2B, 3 if I have to really rank them sequentially. I think Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. What he's done with stats, longevity, Super Bowls. He's basically become the Tim Duncan of the NFL with arguably some greater even stats. I think at this point you have to say Brady is the greatest. Yep. I never saw Montana play personally, too young as all of us here. But everything is said about him, the stats, rewatching old games, you can tell that he was a legend. I think that puts him a little bit over Peyton. He has a little more Super Bowls. He played in a different era where stats weren't as easy to come by. But you look at Peyton Manning, you gave my answer in the question. He's the all-time leader in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and in
Wins.
Yeah. Five MVPs, 2 Super Bowls. The stats speak for themselves. He's an icon.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think everybody can appreciate it. My list is the same as yours. I've got Brady, Montana, Manning, just because of the Super Bowls, and Manning has a couple losses. But Cody, you're getting the point here. You brought it with Bradshaw, and you brought the sweet tea, or hopefully you'll be bringing some in the future. So you're getting the point here, guys, as we move along to UFC 196. It went down this past weekend, and so did 2 of the sport's biggest names. Holly Holm, the woman who defeated Ronda Rousey, was defeated even though she tried to refuse to tap out. Meanwhile, in the main event, the Irishman Conor McGregor lost to Nate Diaz in a sport that really needs its stars to do well, guys. How does this affect UFC going forward? It seems Rousey's kind of, her era has faded a little bit here, and Holm and McGregor. What do you think here, Cody?
So I think that as someone that's not actually a huge fan of UFC, that it's actually something that provided a lot more entertainment for me, especially if you look at the fact that Holly Holm was someone that defeated Ronda Rousey, who was thought of to be the best woman fighter ever. And then almost a month later,
She could take down Floyd, right?
Right. Almost a month later, she gets beat by Miesha Tate. And the same with Conor McGregor. He's someone that kept jumping around different weight classes, winning in those different weight classes, but finally got beaten. And so I think it's just something that sports people in general love. They love that sport that surprises you, that you can never really estimate. That's why, for the most part, college football has been not exactly boring to me, but it's been a little bit harder to watch because you've got someone like Alabama that's always in the national championship. I like surprises, and the UFC is starting to bring those surprises. So I definitely think it's going to help UFC a lot and actually increase the entertainment value of it.
Wow. Okay. All right. Zach, what do you think?
UFC is a machine. It's unstoppable at this point, right? It's the boxing for the new millennium. It's gone from being a $1 million sport to now it's in the billions, and that's just in a few short years. That's a lot of that was on the strength initially of Brock Lesnar and a lot of not him as much. I can't remember the other guy, but the early names, and now we're getting into Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey really bringing the women's side of it in.
Yeah.
It sucks that Holly Holm's lost. I think the build-up to that match, Holly Holm's Ronda Rousey, would have been the greatest female fight of all time.
For sure.
It would have brought in ratings, I think, close to like Pacquiao and Mayweather, which would have been a boon for the sport. So I think it hurts it, but it'll still bring ratings. It's still we're talking about it on Crossfire, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought we were talking about UFC, let alone women's UFC? It wasn't on our radar 2 or 3 years ago. So the fact is this sport is doing incredibly well right now.
Yep, steadily growing. Mark definitely didn't think we'd be talking about it, but what do you think here?
For me, I don't know. For me, it's like when you're thinking about when you want to watch something, when you want to watch a movie, do you watch it when you already know what the end of the movie is?
Yes.
No, you don't. You want to see what's going to happen. So it's kind of the same thing. You don't pay all this money to know who's already going to win the fight. So I kind of like the underdog factor because it makes it interesting because you don't really know who's going to win. And when the playing field's more leveled out and more even, I feel like that's more interesting because you just don't know who's going to win. Instead of going to a fight saying, oh yeah, Rousey's going to win this, let me just waste $20 right now. You know?
Yeah. I think that me personally, my belief is that this sport needs stars as it's continuing to grow, and it needs the undefeated names. And if they can find each other, then that's a good thing. So maybe it's to the level, like you said, Zach, so you're going to get the point here that it is unstoppable at this point, but I still think it's a sport that may need its stars to do really, really well and have those 1 or 2 icons. But moving forward, guys, just 4 days from now, Selection Sunday will commence. We have a general idea of who the top seeds will be. The Longhorns figure to be somewhere between a 4 and a 6 seed, depending on how the Big 12 tourney goes for them. But what we're looking for is a sleeper team around a 5 seed or lower, heck, even a 16 that might make some noise in the tournament, really maybe in the year of the most parity, and as long as I can remember in college basketball. Zach, we'll start with you.
So I have 3 teams. Just quick thing about each of them. The first one is Gonzaga. Everyone knows who Gonzaga is.
Yeah.
They're right now predicted to be be UT's matchup in the first round, and that's a problem. Gonzaga has 2 future NBA players. And
as a
Sabonis,
12?
As an 11 seed,
11.
6 versus 11. And Sabonis and Wiltshire is one of the best players in the nation. Gonzaga's a dangerous team. Providence with Chris Dunn, who's arguably the best player in the country, with
That
especially
no one knows about.
Exactly. Exactly. Ben Simmons likely not in the tournament, and with Buddy Hield being a 1 or 2 seed. Chris Dunn has a huge opportunity to really carry a team, and I could see Providence making a Sweet 16 run easily. I think they're projected at 9 seed right now. And then my wild card is Oakland. Oakland isn't even projected to make the NCAA tournament right now. They have to win their own their conference tournament. I think it's the Big West. But they have one of the best players in the nation in Kay Felder. He's putting up 24-9 this season. If the most important thing, in my opinion, in the NCAA tournament is having a really good point guard. If you have a really good point guard, especially we saw it with C.J. McCollum a couple years ago, dudes that can make shots and get buckets, you can carry yourself far in the tournament. So watch out for Oakland if they can make it.
Tyus Jones for Duke last year comes to mind,
Exactly.
making a few big shots down the stretch. Mark?
Well, I think a team that has had a lot of success in the tournament in past years is Wichita State. Wichita State's done really well. They have one of the best coaches in the country in Greg Marshall. It's just, I feel like, their matchups are pretty well. They play Cincinnati in an 8 versus 9 matchup. So if they beat Cincinnati, then they play Villanova, number 1 seed, which I feel is the weakest number 1 seed in the tournament. So, I feel like they could definitely beat Villanova. And then after that, A&M and Cal is who they face down the line. So I definitely think they could make maybe a Sweet 16, Elite 8 with just what in Joe Lunardi's bracket says. But, I feel like that's a pretty favorable path for them.
Wow, so you got Wichita State, who was a number 1 seed a couple years ago, and I believe round of 32 exit, or really disappointing exit.
Kentucky, they lost to Kentucky.
Right, when they were an 8 seed, 9 seed?
Yeah.
Cody, what do you think here?
Well, I think I'm going to go with Jim Boeheim and Syracuse, mostly because Jim Boeheim's someone that's been there before, especially with a number 1 seed 3 years ago. He knows how to coach a team. He's one of them is leading one of the most efficient teams in the NCAA right now. I think they're in the top 20, which is incredible. And not necessarily that they have a certain player that I just love for the most part. But Jim Boeheim's always someone that I think is like that Coach K, who's always going to get it done no matter who he has. So I think I'm going to go with Jim Boeheim and Syracuse.
Kind of one of the basketball blue bloods that no one's really talking about right now.
Exactly.
I like what you're saying, but I'm going to have to go with Brooklyn just because I don't think the Orange are playing that well lately, especially in their tournament of late. So we're going with Brooklyn just because I love that pick along with Providence. I think that Chris Dunn is going to be spectacular come tournament time, guys. So that gets the point. Headed to the break, we've completed round 2, but up next we will decide a winner and everyone's favorite segment, Rapid Fire. You will not want to miss it. Welcome back as we get ready to light up Rapid Fire one final time. Let's take a look at our Crossfire leaderboard. We've got Mark Skol, Jr. the 8th with 2 points. Cody's still with the deuces.
Deuces, right?
Yeah, the deuces. That's correct. Cody Clemens in the middle's got 1. Just kidding. And Zach has 3. He's got
3 now.
Golden State Warriors on us over there. All right, guys, let's go and get into it. We've got 2 rapid fires. You guys can jump in at any time. We'll double the points to 2 to decide a winner. Super Bowl MVP Von Miller announced this week he will participate in Dancing with the Stars, joining the list of many other decorated athletes from Emmitt Smith to Chad Johnson on the show. But the question for you is, who would you want to see on Dancing with the Stars? Can really be any athlete here, but who would you want to see salsa up there?
Well, for me, it's definitely the guy who does the most touchdown dance moves in the NFL right now, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. I know it's mostly the whip and the nae-nae, but I like to see what he can do, like actual dancing, not like street dancing, I guess.
Okay, street dance or end zone dancing.
Yeah, end zone dancing. Let's see what he can do in the ballroom.
Okay, we've got ODB for the ballroom.
Give me Steph Curry. I want Steph Curry out there. He's dominating on the court. He does his little shimmies. He's moving. He dances with the basketball, frankly. I want to see how he dances with a woman, too.
That's solid. That's solid. And everybody would love it. People would eat it up.
Oh, for sure.
Ratings through the roof. Cody, who's your guy?
I think I'm going to take a more experienced Rob Gronkowski. Been known to party a little bit and to hit the dance floor every now and again. So I think he'd be a little bit more experienced, and I think he'd probably pull out the win. So
Gronk.
I think I'm going to go with Gronk.
Okay, real quick. So you're going to get the 2 points because I love the Gronk factor there. What about a Texas athlete? Real quick.
I got to go with my guy, Danny Newsom.
I knew that was coming. I did it just so I could hear Danny Newsom, guys.
The best dancer on the basketball team.
As NFL free agency is officially underway, many moves have already been made, so it is time to test your wisdom on where players have gone. And we will start with number 1, former Texas Longhorn safety, Michael Griffin.
Vikings.
You have to name where he went. Okay, there's one. There's one for Mark.
This is about to be Mark's round.
It might be Mark's round. All right. We have number 2. We will go with Bruce Irvin.
Oakland.
Oh. Yep.
Okay, Cody coming in hot there.
Oh, you're reading it. You're reading it. You can't read.
Okay, all right, yeah, you can't read. Chris Ivory.
Jags.
Okay. All right, let me take a look at the scoreboard. So we have 4. Cody has, so it's 4 to 3. So I'll make this worth 2 points. So anybody can win. All right, Marvin Jones
Lions.
is where?
Lions.
Mark wins. Do we have time? Do we have time for the original question? The first question of rapid fire? All right, guys, so I don't like ending it like that because that was a little too easy. So we're going to add in another question and get a little creative here. Rumors have been circling for a while now that Major League Baseball is looking to expand to 32 teams. San Antonio was talked about for a while as a possible destination, but past week, several people pointed to Nolan Ryan's connection to Central Texas and how great of a fit the city of Austin would be for a Major League Baseball franchise. So if you were starting a new team in Austin, what would its name be?
There's an old Texas name. There used to be a, I don't know if it was an ABA team or the original D League in the NBA, but it was called the Chaparrals. San Antonio. It was San Antonio. It was for the Mavericks. No, it wasn't for the Mavericks. They were just like a D League team. And I think the Austin Chaparrals would be really cool.
That
sounds
sounds,
like a roadrunner.
sounds pretty good. A little roadrunner.
Yeah.
You got the Westlake connection there too.
Yeah.
It fits.
There's enough bird teams around though, isn't there?
I mean, Roadrunner. The Roadrunner's kind of cool.
It's
Got
kind
one
of
in
cool.
UTSA.
I'll go more of a Western kind of thing. Keep with the theme. I'll go Coyotes. I think that's kind of a. I don't know. I've seen too many
I think of
birds.
hockey though. I think of hockey when I
Coyotes.
think of Coyotes. Yeah.
Coyotes aren't
Arizona.
ferocious. They're scavengers, dude.
Yeah.
That is a
Or
team name.
Roadrunners.
That's true.
Roadrunners get eaten by
they're too
Coyotes.
fast.
Now Roadrunners fly away from everybody. They're way too fast. You'd have some speedsters. You could steal any base you wanted.
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
Roadrunners. Yeah.
Well,
I'm out on the
I think,
Coyotes.
I think for me, I'm all about bringing people together, so I think I would bring the whole state of Texas together and call them the Austin Aggies.
Oh no! Yeah,
Get a little
Aggies.
college station in Austin.
No, please no.
Cody, how many points did you have? 4. Let's go and subtract 8. You in the show with -4. Zach Head gets the win with the Chaparrals. You got the connection there. You brought some history in there and didn't go all
Get weird.
icky on us and the weird cult thing. So we're going to avoid that. Cody's are lame. Do we have time for FaceTime? No time for FaceTime. So we're moving on. That'll do it for us on Show 5 here in College Crossfire in 2016. Follow us on Snapchat, TSTV Sports, Twitter. We're there as well at College Xfire. Keep up with the latest Longhorn sports news as well at College Press Box. They also air Mondays at 9:30. We'll see you next week at 9 p.m. live like every week. Zach Head is your winner. Huge thank you to everyone in studio, master control. Special thanks to Cody, Cade, Mark Skol as well. And a special thanks to you for spending your Wednesday night with us. Until next time, I'm Reese Miller. Have a wonderful night.
Not outstanding that.